for joining, and it's actually a very, very good turnout that we've got here. I know it's a bad day for most of you because you've got meetings at work, and we won't schedule these type of meetings on Mondays and Fridays next year. I've also learned that you guys are all busy, so we'll look at that. But welcome to everybody. We're doing well. People are still joining. I'm not going to keep you too long. I just want to check if Anthony's in. I see Jan is in, but I just want to see if Anthony's in.
Nico, Anthony is having connectivity issues with Teams. I've just given him a call. He's trying to connect as we speak.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Yeah, great. Thank you, Norika. He's our champ today. So, but it's raining here in this part of town. Okay, let me kick off. I think we've sent out as much. There we are. He's in. He's in. Hello, Anthony. Right, let me start. I don't want to waste too much time because I think we've got much more important stuff to discuss and people to. But I think I just want to welcome everybody and thanks for taking time off to come and talk about this very, very important issue and so forth. I just want to go through a few pointers that we need to just take cognizance of. The second thing on the agenda is the competition legislation, and I always just make sure that we all understand it, that the competition legislation, and I think these days, especially with these recordings, it could be a problem if you're colluding, but ASPASA has never been found to collude, so we've always kept away from that, but this is a specific subject matter, so it's environmental, and I think that's what's important. We're going to refrain from any collusion and so forth. So I think unless you disagree, I'm assuming that everybody agrees with that. If you disagree and you find that we are colluding and talking about other people, you know what collusion means, then I think you should leave and you should report that. But we will not do that. It's more of a specific subject. I think the rules for the Microsoft Teams, I think we all know that roughly, to disable the videos and the microphones, stay muted because it takes up the space and then it starts making funny noises. Raise your hand if you want to contribute. Those who haven't been on Teams, there's a little hand up front. You click on that and then we should pick it up. You can also write us little messages for those who've been around for a while, and then when we have discussions, we just keep them short. That's why I'm trying to keep mine short. What we're going to do today is I'm going to do a short introduction. Those of you who've read it, most probably will find that it makes sense. Then I'm handing over to Anthony. Anthony's going to drive this process for me. Then we're going to have some input from the forestry industry, Jan Heiser. He'll share a few ideas with us. And then I was asked, and I need to check with Letitia, that Afrimat wanted to share a case study with us. And I think Brian Weevil, I've seen him in. And when it gets to his portion, then we'll allow him or Letitia to talk. Then we have to get the milestones for the future. And I'm then going to propose that we have a small little subcommittee from operations so that we can do that, and then we'll close. I'm not going to stretch it out too far. I see there's a hand, and I'm not too sure whose hand that is, but whoever it is, please shout. Okay, right. I didn't see, it's not the hand. Right, let me start off with the introduction. I said to Anneke, if somebody hasn't got the documents in front of them, then if you send Anneke at office@ASPASA a quick mail, she'll forward it to you. But if you connect it on the agenda, it was attached to that. And I think just some background to what we've done. Anneke, your slide is now on our meeting date. I don't know where you are now, but anyway, let's get to the point. I think just a bit of background. ASPASA has been driving the environmental audit process for many years. When I started at ASPASA 22 years ago, there was already an audit process taken or being done. Funny enough, the guy who did it was an ex-pilot. Him and Sir Rupert Bromley did it, and they went around and they helped the guys. And I think everybody was not very clued up about it. So we got the idea from the Americans, from the National Gravel Association. They call themselves NSSGA, National Stone and Gravel Association. They're huge. They had this document. I'm just summarizing what's in that document there. They had this program. We got it with permission from them because they called it About Face USA. We then said About Face RSA. So Rupert got it from them, and that was one of the tasks that he was given when we started ASPASA. Remember, ASPASA was regional bodies, and then they put it all together, and they decided, the leaders of those days, that it should be a national body. And the two things they decided was we had to do help with health and safety, and we had to help with environmental. Health and safety, I think I've said that there in the document. It's always been a much easier thing because there's very clear law and it's all in one book, and we know where to find it, and we get all the updates and stuff like that. What I've only actually realized in the last few weeks or since lockdown is that environmental is quite a complicated thing. And I was explaining to one of the press ladies who phoned me and said to me, this environmental thing. And I said, it's like a lawyer. People say, oh, I'm a lawyer. But lawyers only specialize in certain things. They're all a divorce lawyer, or they're a contract lawyer, or they're a motor vehicle lawyer. They're not, a lawyer is not a lawyer. I mean, if somebody wants to do something, you have to get the specific lawyer. And I think that reminds me much about environmental matters. It's got so many speciality fields. So I've not run into somebody that can handle the whole thing. There's somebody that specializes in water, and other one in this and in that. And that's been our problem, that the auditors come and they push their own agenda. And they haven't done bad, but over the lockdown, I've spoken to many people, and you'll see in my document that some of the managers, and then I phoned my friend Anthony, who then helped me. But some of the comments that were made, and I put in the document there, we don't want to be only ISO focused. Now, I've got a bad feeling about ISO, because when we started and we went to Glen Douglas, which was the ISCOR site many years ago, Marius went there and they said, oh, we are ISO quarry because ISCOR is ISO. And Marius said, fine, and the files were beautiful. They all had little butterflies on and little pictures on. And Marius walked into the plant and there was no machine guarding. So they were highly classified on ISO, but they had no machine guarding. So we said, oops, that might be the thing. So tick box systems, I think that's something that we don't want to make quarry managers lawyers, and we don't want people to fear these audits. When I started speaking to people, people were saying we hate these audits because it's such unnecessary pressure. We actually don't know what to prepare for. And then somebody comes and says, oh, you haven't done this and you haven't done that, and we actually didn't know we had to do it. So we don't want to stress managers. The whole thing about ASPASA is to help managers, and this is what we're going to try and do from today on, and not have people that pretend that they know everything, because there is nobody that knows everything. You don't find a lawyer that knows anything. They specialize. Same with environmental. And there's quite a big few mistakes made in the past. So we want to get managers to feel it's their program, to show that we as an industry are legally compliant. I sit in a province in Mpumalanga where the coal industry is digging out coal mines all over the place. So the environmental issues here are huge, and it's a big problem. So we don't want to fall into that, and we don't want people to say, well, I didn't know, and somebody must help us. So the whole environmental policy needs to be looked at, and in 2021 we're going to run with this new way of dealing things. I then took some time off, and I drove down to Anthony. Was there and stayed there for an evening at his house, and we sat down and he had some of his staff there, and we went through what happens in a quarry, because it's no use only hammering everybody about water licenses, and there's quite a few of our members that got water licenses that shouldn't have them, and others who don't have them. So, for example, that's a big thing. But there's a whole list of stuff that we have to do, and I think that was the thing that we found, and then we decided that we needed to put it in. I put it into this document. Anthony is the guy who understands it, who's been a quarry manager, who's basically finishing off his degree in environmental issues. And we said, fine, we need to attack this thing differently and not have this high-handed way of dealing with people. We must help people so that our industry becomes even better. And we're not going to give them fish, we're going to teach them to fish. So we don't have people that fly in, crap on you and fly out, or eat your food and then fly out. That I think we're past that. And especially with environmental, I had such a lot of flack in the last few months or the last year about environmental issues that I felt like running away at one stage. But so that's sort of my background, input, introduction, and then unless there's any questions or any comments, I'm going to hand over to Anthony, who's taking it further for us. Right, seems to be none. Anthony, I'm handing over to you. Are you all right?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Nico. Thank you. Can you hear me there?
Yes, we hear you clear. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for the introduction, Nico, and welcome to everybody at this meeting. I'd like to start off by just saying what we're going to do is to go through the document that you all have and have a look at why, how, and what we need to do so that it makes sense to you. Firstly, I'd just like to thank everyone for the feedback that came back. A lot of the comments were very, very positive. In fact, there was nothing negative. And I think everyone's very enthusiastic about this new management program, which is good because it's a foundation for success. Why? The question why? As a result of COVID-19, audits were suspended, and during this time, the auditor decided to part ways with ASPASA. So a need was identified by Nico to continue with the environmental audits, and then in order to ensure that the industry was compliant with environmental legislation. So the purpose of our meeting is to create a user-friendly environmental management program that will ensure compliance of the operations. And I need to stress here that it's irrespective of size. We're going to come back to the size of the things. Anneke, you can leave it on that slide that'll be great, thank you. The size of the operations, because the smaller guys are having quite a battle to get this all sorted out. It's also important, before we go through the whole thing, to note that we can't lose the existing work that has been put in by all the operations and some of the previous auditors. Everyone has got a wealth of information on site in files, and then sometimes they just don't know quite what they have. So we can't throw that out the window. We're going to work on that as a foundation. Some of the challenges that operations and companies have is available expertise, as Nico said earlier on. The subject of environmental management is becoming very complex. In fact, it has already become complex, and there's a lot of legality in it. And it's changing all the time. We see this on a daily basis. There's new legislation, and this is a huge, huge, huge problem for operational guys. People don't have the resources, either human or financial, and then trying to fit environmental issues into your other operational administrative requirements is actually quite challenging. So most people are not environmental specialists, and what we want to do is try and equip the operational teams with the knowledge and skill to be able to handle the subject. The how of the program was to split the process into bite-sized segments and not just flood some poor quarry manager, and I'm one of them, so I can say this. Flood the guy with this this massive amount of work that he has to put in. We start with the most critical in order to get legal compliance so that you can operate legally, and then move on to the, and I want to use the term very, very carefully, the less important parts of it. So we want to develop a system that can assist operational people with easily, it mustn't be a difficult thing to manage, and provide them with a framework in which they can operate on. I want to just note or make it very clear that the majority of information that is required is already available. If you've done an audit and you've had a decent score on your audit, pretty much everything is there. So it's really going to be a bit of a reshuffle, an update, and more of an information and an awareness exercise. We want to empower managers and supervisors to be able to know what it's all about. And here I want to stop just for a little bit, because with communities and DMRs and NGOs all becoming a lot more active in our business cycles, and I think a lot of people on this call will know exactly what I say when I'm talking about community involvement. It's not going to get any better. In fact, it's probably going to get a lot worse before we get better. NGOs are also going to start putting a lot of pressure on operations. Recent developments in legislation, if you've done your MPR performance assessment, from next year onwards, it becomes a public document. And I can guarantee you there are a lot of NGOs sitting, waiting for that to happen. And they'll come and challenge you on it, and you're going to have all sorts of things if you don't know what you're talking about. So that being said, we'll have regular updates on legal registers, etc., that sort of information, so that people have, are up to date with things. We need a system that is designed by the industry, and it will be audited by ASPASA. It cannot be designed by one body, because we need to have it as a credibility. And the ASPASA can't be the judge, jury, and executioner. Unfortunately, as much as the good work they do, they can't do that. It has to be, there has to be a separation of duties there. And then, very importantly, and I mentioned this before, and I'll probably mention it again, the inclusion of the smaller operations is absolutely critical for the industry to move forward. I think the smaller operations have got big challenges in terms of compliance, because they simply don't have the resources that the bigger groups do. So that's what we want to do. I'm going to go through the process and just highlight a few things here, and then we'll take it from there and set up what we want to do. I think Nico's proposal, and it's a little bit premature, but it's a good time to talk about it, is to have a subcommittee that monitors this, or actually sets this up and starts putting forward their proposals. Now, if you look at the slide on your screen, which is the breakdown of operations in the quarry, I took it from the beginning, and that is basically from a greenfield operation. What would you need in order to be legal, through to the preparation, which is overburden stripping, your drilling and blasting, your load and haul, your crushing and screening, your workshops and stores, stockpiling, loading and dispatch, delivery and collections, your quarry rehab, and then mine closure. So as you can see, those 11 steps basically summarize what happens in the quarry industry. And each one of them has an effect on your environmental compliance, and each one there's somewhere you're going to have environmental people. So the concerns that were raised is legal compliance, both internally and externally. Your EIAs, UMPRs, mining rights, lease agreements, water user permits, that sort of thing. Basically your license to operate, and that is quite critical, because if you don't have that, you can get closed down very quickly. So that's in block 1. Most quarries have all this information in some form or another. The question that is generally asked is, do the people know what's in those documents? And unfortunately, that's quite a big gap. So quarry managers and site people will have to understand what's in their EMPRs, because it's quite a document. It's a lot of reading. It's not always very interesting, because there's a lot of legality in it, but you need to know what the operation, what that EMPR says, because it can affect you in all spheres of your business. This the block 1, and please understand, this is a framework. It's not complete. I'm sure there will be more things that we add to those blocks. The audits that will be done for this specific block will be done remotely. And this helps us to save costs. It also keeps our carbon footprint down, and it makes it a lot easier for operations to be able to send the information through to the auditor, who can verify it and obviously will score them on compliance. So block 1 is going to be your compliance section. Then the rest is more operational. Block 2, 3, 4, up to 10. In fact, 9 there's a variety of issues that are raised in those areas, and I highlighted some of the most important ones, which I think are going to become critical in the future, in the very near future, if not already. And one word comes up the whole time, and it's community, which we spoke about earlier on. Every single aspect of our business has an effect on the community in some form or another, whether it's noise pollution, whether it's dust emissions, whether it's pollution, whether it's your SLPs, whether it's traffic. It all has an effect, and your communities are going to become more and more and more important stakeholders in your operations. And I'm possibly just hammering on this a little bit, but we need to get this thing sorted out. We need to get our community relations in place, and knowledge of your environmental legislation and your EMPRs and your SLPs will equip the quarry managers and their staff to be able to deal with at least the first line of community involvement. Okay, so things that are also important on block 2 is boundaries. There are quarries that have gone out of their boundaries, knowingly or unknowingly. Again, if you don't know what's in your EMPR, you won't know what's going on. And it's very easy to mine outside of your boundary. And the effects there, the consequences are quite difficult to sort out. SLPs, another big one with the authorities. Anyone who's involved with or ever been involved in an SLP or an SLP audit, it's a very, very tricky thing. You can be in trouble for very small things, and the DMR seems to like that. Moving on to block 3, drill and blast. There again, communities come up very, very strongly. Noise, dust, vibrations, fly rocks, all that sort of thing. Most of us have had an issue with drilling and blasting at some stage of your life as an operations manager or senior manager. And we just need to make sure that people know what they can or can't do to prevent any issues there. Then on block 4, your load and haul, again, community comes up. Reverse hooters, dust, noise, all these sort of things. These are all environmental issues which are going to become a big problem for you. For the more environmentally conscious operations, your carbon footprint, your diesel usage, your diesel particulate emissions, your emissions, oils, etc., all big players in environmental legislation. Moving on to block 5 then, crushing and screening, which is basically one of our key parts of our business. Again, community comes up from the noise side, the dust side, water pollution side. If you've got a wash plant, you've got slimes dams. We've seen some horrible accidents with slimes dams in the gold mining industry. Fortunately, we don't have the size of those things, but it is dangerous and it's out there. And it can really affect the future of your business. And I just want to make everyone aware that unlike the safety legislation, you are personally liable, you are personally responsible, and you can be criminally prosecuted for any breach of this. And I don't want to put the fear of God into you, but it is a reality. Water pollution from crushing and screening, especially wash plants, is also quite a big thing because you get sedimentation and also all that sort of thing runoff into natural water courses, and it can have quite dire consequences. Block 6 then is your workshop and stores. There you have your hazardous chemicals, your wash bays, your oil traps, oil and diesel spillage, bund walls. If you have a diesel tank leak and your bund walling is not correct, the impact that it has from an environmental point, not only is it not only dangerous for environmentally, but the cleanup costs and the red tape that goes with it is enormous, and it can cost you millions. It literally can. Then if we go to block 7, which is stockpiling, again, communities come into it. Dust, runoffs, cementation of water sources, sedimentation, you are exposed. And in the community, neighbors will very easily be able to throw stones at you. Block 8, which is loading and dispatching. This is going out the gate. Again, community comes up. Dust, noise, reverse hooters. I mean, we've all had people complaining about reverse hooters. And they say to us, just switch the reverse hooter off. We know we can't do it. So you've got to be careful how you manage that. In block 9 is pretty much the same as 8, but this is more, it goes outside of the gate. And there you've got traffic volumes, access roads, the impact you're having on neighbors and communities outside of your operation in terms of heavy traffic. The bigger quarries, especially with the high volumes that they take out, a lot of trucks, damage to roads, spillage, etc. So there you've got community involvement again. So you'll notice that I've really played this tune, probably a bit boring by now, but I'm doing it very, very specifically because it has already become a very big issue. Then moving on to the block 10, which is towards the end of the operation life cycle. Quite a difficult part is your rehabilitation. It's a specialist field. You need to know what it is, and the EMPR tells you what this quarry is going to be used for once operations are ended, or and is rehabilitation going to happen progressively, or is it only going to happen at the end of the operation? So these things one needs to know. Financial provisions, which is a big one, and your mine planning. And then again, community comes in. So please forgive me if I'm boring you on communities, but it is there. The alternative land use, this is after closure. It has an impact on what is going to happen there, and you need to be up to date or up to speed with what that's about. And then, of course, on 11 is your mine closure, and we all know how difficult that document is to get and what you've got to go through before you get a certified mine closure certificate from the DMR. But if all your things have been in place from block 1 to 10, and you've done what you have to do environmentally, it'll make that last part of the life cycle of the quarry a lot easier. So that's basically, I think, in a nutshell, and I don't want to go on too long because it gets boring, what needs to be done and how we want to operate this new management system. A few comments before I hand over back to Nico and questions and things is the issue of ISO compliance, and a few people have asked about that. Now, to be ISO compliant is going to be very difficult and costly. You need a lot of resources, and at this stage, my personal opinion is, if you want to go ISO, then do it internally. It will, if you feel that there's a benefit there. I don't think it is necessary. I think we need to get the foundations right and get things in place before we do that. We can use the previous systems that were ISO based, which will help us to get things going there. And then water user licenses, which Nico referred to earlier on, and that is very much a specialist field, which needs to be dealt with by a specialist. It's not something that anybody can do. We've all had experiences with water user licenses. Some people have spent a lot of money unnecessarily, and you end up it's an absolute quagmire of a subject. Then as I mentioned earlier on, your EMP knowledge, EMPR knowledge, is lacking in the industry, and the performance assessments are soon going to be public knowledge, and that worries me, because you're going to get a well-qualified person who in an NGO that's going to come and start asking you very difficult questions, and if you don't know what you're talking about, they're going to roast you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to me. Nico, I'll hand over to you again.
Thanks, Anthony. That's a nice short summary. I don't know if there's any questions. Can we have some questions or comments? It doesn't have to be. There might be people that want to comment on what we've put out there. There's one, Letitia. You can go.
Thank you very much. Morning, everybody. Anthony, for myself, I enjoy the process flow because it makes sense to us. I would just like to see that the committee puts it into specific aspects and impacts under each one of those blocks, because then you talk the language of the NGO or the environmental officer coming onto site. One must be very careful not to confuse an audit document with your system. So if your system is set up ISO, anybody must be able to audit you, whether it is water affairs, DMR, ASPASA. So the audit document is not the system. You must have your own system in place. So it's something that we confused last year as well. I just wanted to bring that up again. And then, Nico, I really, really want to ask again, we need to get Department of Water Affairs in one of these meetings to explain to us the VULA process and the GA process. Obviously not giving away that some of our smaller guys are struggling, but every consultant has a different opinion of how it is and how it should be applied for. Many Department of Water Affairs officials have different opinions as well. So we want the head office Department of Water Affairs to come and talk to us about that. That's my input for now.
Thanks, Letitia. I think very relevant comments. You're more than welcome to join the committee. I think it would be good to have you on it, and then you can put your input there. Regarding water user licenses and general authorizations, it is, as I said earlier on, it's an absolute nightmare of an issue. You can go to 3 different departments of water affairs in 3 different regions and you'll get 3 different answers. We've been this road with these guys, and then just when you think you're getting it right, they change the staff and move them around, and so it's very, very much a bureaucratic mess, and yeah, it's problematic. It really is.
Anthony, thanks, Letitia, for asking. I think yes, we did have a meeting with Water Affairs a few months ago, 2, 3, 4 months ago. But maybe what we should do is to take it further and make it meaningful. Is to I'm going to ask you all to let me have the questions about what the problems are in water affairs. I will submit it to the head of the department and to the lady that we use as a consultant. She's very knowledgeable. She used to work at the department, and she even doesn't always agree with what the officials say. And then we have a session early in the new year, and we put our questions to them. And then if somebody says, well, it's like this, then we'll say, well, go and speak to so-and-so. We don't agree, because I think what I said right in the beginning there, it's a major problem. Anthony has confirmed that. Any other questions or comments from any of our other colleagues around? Unless you can hold them, think about them, the questions or comments, and then I think what we should do is let our next speaker quickly enter the discussions and let him share with us, and then maybe there might be even more comments or questions. So I'm going to invite Jan Heiser. Jan Heiser is an environmentalist person who does audits for forestry. So he will tell you more or less where he comes from. And forestry and mining is most probably roughly the same problem. And Jan, welcome, and we're going to hand over to you. You can put your face on, and then I'll put my face off. Thanks.
Thanks, Niku. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good morning, everyone. I'll try and be quick, and thanks for the opportunity to share some lessons learned from the commercial forestry industry. Yes, I think I absolutely agree, first of all, with Anthony in saying that stakeholders and community stakeholders especially are fast becoming a big part of our compliance and our general license to operate. It's something that's growing and growing and growing. And obviously, we need to take cognizance of that in everything that we do. It is definitely so, obviously, that the environment and impacts on the environment are, it's very largely linked to impacts to communities. Just think of water, a little stream that flows through your operation and leaves your operation, and then lower down there are users, water users, communities, and it can quickly go south if you don't manage that aspect, put the necessary emphasis on it. So if we look at forestry in terms of driving environmental performance, we've actually had some very good 2 or 3 decades in forestry, and interestingly enough, one of the big drivers there was and I'm just putting it out there, was a forestry certification program where we have the Forestry Stewardship Council, or FSC, that we are certified in terms of, and that being certified then opens certain markets for us. In some instances, we get a price premium, etc. So that was a big instrument in driving environmental performance. In South Africa, about 95% of all commercial plantations are FSC certified. In your industry, I don't think there is such a certification system at this stage, although obviously ISO 14001 would be something that you could potentially look at on a company by company basis. So if we just go back at where we started, when we had to realize that at some stage the penny dropped and we realized we were not legally compliant. So if you look at Nico's, the first page of his presentation, I think we've got the thing a little bit the wrong way around, but they say that in terms of compliance, most people start off by, or companies, by being unknowingly non-compliant. In other words, you don't know that you don't comply to the law. And that is quite blissful. But then at some stage, the penny drops and you become aware that you are now legally, well, you are non-compliant and you are aware of it. You then progress through a process where you work at that non-compliances and you become legally compliant as a third step. And in forestry, most companies are sitting at that level, being legally compliant or knowingly compliant. And you want to actually progress beyond that by becoming unknowingly compliant, which means it becomes second nature. And there are certainly companies that have progressed that far, but there are also others that struggle to get to that point. And I'm just putting this out there as a natural evolution of compliance to whatever requirement it is. So if we look at our lessons that we've learned, probably the most important thing is that as a general statement, people will generally support something that they've helped to create. That goes for our households, for you and your children, anyway, and in business as well. So in saying that, it's important, very, very important, that whatever sort of environmental program and auditing program you guys put it out there. I have discussed it with Anthony and with Nico. Critically important that operational management commits to that, are involved in that, and I'm glad to see that's actually what we are doing now. That's fantastic. And that they also give the opportunity to, once it's implemented, to feedback, to create a suitable feedback loop into saying, look, this is working for us or it's not working for us. We shouldn't be auditing for the sake of auditing or monitoring for the sake of monitoring. It's a dead loss. So people need to believe in what they are doing. And we found this out the hard way in forestry, where we had with this FSC certification system was initially implemented in a very top-down manner in many companies. And although there was progress, it was very slow. And, you know, if you take your foot off the pedal as a manager, as a CEO, whatever, for a while, you come back and you see that, no, the focus has shifted entirely. This is what's happening. We're sitting in a production business. So, you know, people need to from the inside, we need to create that awareness in terms of the environment. So how did we do that? How did we achieve that? Thinking on it, I think probably the biggest single point out there would be probably in the way that we conducted our environmental program, and then following on as part of that, the assurance, the audit program. So I think audits, and I'm talking about first and second party audits, are unique learning opportunities. Those of you in the corporate world will know that if you do audits yourself, if it's first or second party audit, you're free to consult and to provide not only the, point out the non-compliance, but also discuss and provide the possible solutions to that. Because that is really where the synergies come from, and where people start finding each other, and you find that at the end of the day, the operational managers really, it comes from inside them, and they just know what to do and what not to do. You want to end up there. I hope I'm making myself clear in that regard. In forestry, we also had a very primary driver of our compliance and our performance was the Forestry South Africa, which is the commercial growers umbrella body, very similar to what ASPASA does in your industry. So FSA has also been part and parcel of our environmental program. We've got very good world-class forestry standards and procedures in terms of commercial forestry in our country, and a lot of these were taken up as part of the environmental guidelines that is published from time to time by Forestry South Africa. So that's maybe something that you guys can consider, is to get a set of guidelines, and it's nothing fancy, very simple and very to the point for the industry, because it tends to start standardizing performance across the industry. Maybe there is such a thing in place, I don't know, I'm just making the observation. It's important not to complicate environmental audits. We had at some stage very complicated systems in forestry where we also tried to score between different plantations, and there were competitions and stuff, and really, guys, from where I stand, these environmental audits weren't designed to judge between two operations, which one is the best and which not. An audit is a mere snapshot. And to score, we ended up taking the scoring system away. We rather looked at the environmental performance as it, which plantation then performed better in terms of less and less findings and that sort of thing, instead of scoring the audit as such. I think the moment you start scoring it and you're comparing between two operations, people are naturally inclined to start hiding things from you. And this is not what you want. You actually want to get the auditor should ideally get to the operation and start chatting and be on such a good footing with the operational guys that they actually say, look, we've got these and these and these problems. Can we go there first and let's sort that out? Because you want to add value to that operation. So that's just a general pointer. I think that's basically it. The last thing I want to say, I don't think you guys should get bogged up in this sort of ISO versus not ISO. ISO is important, it's got a good place, but it tends to complicate things to a certain extent. What we have found is, what we ended up doing is that we built a lot of ISO principles into our procedures and our processes. But when we actually drive compliance and performance in the environmental field in forestry, we tend to not go the ISO way and more focus on performance-based systems. ISO is a system-based system. So performance is what it is. We need to set the bar at a certain height, and operations need to strive to get to that height and then start crossing over the bar. And as it goes in life, once that's happened, the bar is then raised a little bit higher. And that's where your continual improvement comes in. So that's just a general comment in terms of your system that you use. I think the last, as a very last thing, one could also obviously, if you have limited resources and time in terms of your program and your environmental program and your auditing program, you could also try and use a risk-based approach whereby, and it's common knowledge, nothing fancy, that you somehow screen out higher risking operations and then audit them, work through them, and then get to the next group as you go on. That's just some inputs from my side. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jan. Any questions, comments to Jan? Please shout, guys and girls. Few interesting ideas. Nothing at this stage. No hands. Right, Jan, thanks. Stay with us. Maybe questions or comments come up a bit later. Letitia, you guys are now going to do us a presentation under point 6. Whoever's going to do that.
Thank you, Nico. Just before Ruben starts, why I wanted to share this, because we didn't have an audit, we decided the managers in Afrimat will still continue and prepare for the presentation as if Lizette or any auditor will come. And I want Ruben to take over and explain to us the benefit of doing this, and also show the industry how much it helped them. Thank you.
Thanks, Letitia. Good morning, everyone. Let me take this opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ruben.
Thank you. Let me take this opportunity to thank ASPASA and Afrimat Management for this platform to share with the industry on our experience on the 2020 about phase audit. This audit was done virtually, whereby the invitation was sent to Afrimat Management across the region, as in KZN and Free State, and also management in other provinces, the likes of the environmental specialists, and also Letitia sat in the audits. And I must say it went very well, even though at the beginning it was a bit traumatizing, having to do a PowerPoint presentation. As you may know, most of us managers are production orientated. We focus on production and safety. So it was a bit of a journey for some of us, especially the older generation. But I'm happy to report back that the anxiety pushed most of us out of our comfort zone, and the objectives of the audit were realized. How were the objectives realized? I think most of our managers now, as in Afrimat managers, have a better understanding of the EMP document, which is a critical document for environmental management on site. In a sense that now we have a better understanding of the requirements in terms of the legal requirements, because during the normal audits, every time, whether it be the SHE-ish audit or the ASPASA audit, there's always 2 aspects of the audit that we need to score better, and also to make sure that the operations don't close, whether it be by the DMR or the green scorpions or the environmental requirements. So there's always a fear, in particular with the environmental compliance, that you might find your operation being shut down or your license being revoked, as well as facing jail time, because unlike in health and safety with environmental compliance, one as a responsible person on site for environmental management, you might face jail time or be fined in your personal capacity. And also, why I think the objective we realize is we're now familiar with the practical aspects of the EMPR. That is the second part of the EMP document, where it deals with all the operational issues on a day-to-day. I think in the past, we're doing things naturally without really being aware that these things are listed in the EMP document, and they're even detailing on the how it should be done and at what frequency. And what is also important is the identification of the gaps in the system. Apart from having an EMP document, nothing is is rigid in the world. Things change, legislation change, whereby we also have legal register which was developed to say if there are new requirements of legislation and if there are any gaps that might be there, then there's a system in place to identify those gaps, put an action plan together, as well as close and update procedures if it is necessary. So the structure of my presentation, which I'm going to share with you just now, follows the document that was developed by ASPASA last year into early this year. Just trying to share the screen. Letitia, can you confirm if you can see my presentation?
Not yet, Ruben. Did you open it in the background before sharing?
No, I've shared it first. Let's try again.
First, just like Zoom, first open it in the background.
Okay.
And then share and double click on it.
My apologies.
It's still not sharing, Ruben.
Okay, let's open it.
Just while we're waiting for Ruben, don't stress. These things catch us off. We are working, and by January we will have another system available to communicate with industry. We're now purchasing and getting Zoom loaded. So some of our meetings will be on Zoom, and some of our meetings will be on Teams. So that's the way we'll try and do next year.
Is it sharing now, Letitia?
Yes.
Yes, Ruben, it is.
My apologies about that. Like I was saying, the structure of my presentation follows the template that was sent to us as part of the new audit requirements, which I found it very interesting, even though, like I said in the beginning, it was a bit of a shock to us. But we embraced the blendings, and we also took on the challenge of sharing our experiences and also using the opportunity to learn in terms of putting together a comprehensive audit document. And then COVID-19 hit us, and the SHE team proposed that we continue with the audits in terms of visually, which just happened to work out very well because we had now developed presentations for Lizette. Now we've got a challenge in terms of unable to conduct the audits. We then moved into doing these audits virtually, which fell into place. My personal experience in terms of studying or learning is if you want to really learn something, you have to either rewrite it yourself in terms of an assessment. In this case, we as managers got the opportunity to go through the EMP, take what is in our EMP, what is relevant and necessary, and put it into a presentation, which enforced a culture of learning. As much as it was painful sometimes, but I think at the end we've managed to achieve what the auditor had in mind and what I think it was necessary. So in terms of the presentation, I'll try and compress it because like I said, is in the original format, which was an audit format. When we did this audit, it took an hour and a couple of minutes because it was an audit. where there were interaction only at the end, but the actual presentation took about an hour. So I'll quickly go through it, skip some of the section, because the objective today is to just indicate and show to the industry how this audit was done, not to actually conduct the audit itself. The first section where we found it was important for everyone and also for the auditor to know that we do have a mining right, which was issued in terms of Section 23 of the Minerals and Petroleum Resources and Development Act of 2002, Act number 28 of 2002. What is important with as a manager to know or understand that there is a start date and an end date of a mining right, whereby you need to know that at a certain date you need to start reapplying for renewal, or if you're not renewing, you've exhausted the minerals, you need to about 18 months or so or before start the process of decommissioning the mine. But in terms of during the operational period, the sketches shown here indicates the area where mining can occur. Anthony mentioned that in some instances, there's been cases where the operator had mined outside the allowable or the legal mining area. So the mining right is accompanied with by a leasehold diagram, which clearly shows where mining can occur. So if you look at the photo on the right, that is a photo developed by our appointed surveyor. It shows or confirms that indeed mining occurs within the space that is shown as per the mining rights. Now, the next stage, once the mining right has been approved or awarded, the owner needs to put together an environmental management program, whereby it gives you environmental authorization to start mining in the area that I've just discussed. So we've been awarded the mining right, and we then put together an EMP, which was subsequently approved by the Department of Mineral Resources, the environmental side. So in that regard, we can now continue to do or conduct mining into the areas that were allocated. What is important with the EMP, which forms part of the environmental compliance, which can be checked through audits, and whether it be ASPASA, whether it be DMR, Department of Water and Sanitation, or even community members. I must indicate that the quarry is situated in a nature conservancy, where we've got neighbors that are very much interested in our activities in terms of environmental compliance. I was listening to Anthony reiterating in that circle the interest or the challenges that you might find yourself faced with if you do not have in-depth knowledge of your environmental management on site, and also in-depth knowledge of the relevant legislation, whether it be the NEMA legislation, the Department of Water, Sanitation, and all the applicable legislation. So for us, through this process, the first section of the EMP is the EIA, which in short looks at the existing background information. In our case, it will be what was this piece of land before it became a quarry, and also looks at the potential impacts in terms of, as a mine, what sort of impacts would you have on the environment before you can start mining. Then the second part looks at the operational phase. That's where I'll say, as a manager, as an environmental person on site, you need to be quite familiar with this section of the document. The first document is more of a historic. The second part or the second section of the EMP looks at what you need to do on a regular basis, on an everyday basis, to ensure that whatever actions or activities that you conduct as a mine, it is in line with your environmental commitments. It also looks at the monitoring of the respective activities on site, whether it be dust, water, as well as perimeter noise, etc. And also looks at your rehabilitation costs, and also move this thing here. Looks at the possible uses of the mine once all the material have been exhausted. Now, in terms of the first part of the EMP, like I said, the objective of the presentation method was to say each manager needs to go through the various aspects listed in the EMP or in the environmental impact assessment. In our case, it starts with topography, it goes to soil management, it looks at land capability and use. It looked at groundwater. It also looked at ambient noise. It looked at waste management. It also looks at surface water and runoff. It also looked at biodiversity, vegetation. It will also look at biodiversity in terms of the animals. In a normal audit, we will have then looked or discussed each one of those impact that were assessed through the EIA process. To say, for example, surface groundwater, it will say discharge water runoff to be stored in the pit, and then storage of wastewater, runoff attenuation dams, monitoring of water quality in the Mbushini River. The quarry is situated next to a stream, which is feeding into a catchment point down the river. So down the stream, we have to make sure that our activities in whatsoever nature, they do not have a negative impact of the water quality in the stream. In terms of biodiversity, in terms of vegetation, during the audit or the visual audit, we would have said, listed some of the biodiversity activities on site to say we will control invasive alien species. There will be a follow-up plan, and there will also be maintenance and control of alien species. And there will also be an action plan for indigenous bush encroachment control, as well as revegetation of the different dams or sections of the pit. Another portion which is important is we have had an impact assessment audit done, whereby we felt it is important to say, let's look at the findings of those audits, whereby we then now need to say, this was done in 2019. Let's see if we have managed to close off or where we are in terms of those findings. Same with the EIA, the audit trail will follow or will try and audit at all the different aspects like topsoil management, alien vegetation, surface water runoff, groundwater, because it is important that as a manager, you have somebody that has looked at your environmental management plan against what is in the EIA document. So hence the structure of the this document. So where we had a partial or a no or a non-compliance, we will then put together a plan. For example, alien vegetation, removal of invasive plant trees. We had a partial there. It was saying evidence of alien vegetation on site. However, removal takes place according to the alien vegetation plan removal. It is a partial because we were removing alien plant vegetation or managing it on site. The only challenge is we're not staying ahead. So we had to go back, and instead of doing it twice a year, because of the nature of the area, it is quite fertile. We sometimes get about an earthworm that is about a meter in terms of length. So we have then pushed the program to remove alien plants quite regularly, every 3 months instead of every quarter. I'll skip through this. We then looked at the on-site environmental management. This deals or tackles the issues with the second section of the EMP, to say now we know Maritzburg quarries that this is what impacts that you have or aspects that you have on your site. Let's see, looking at what you said you're going to do in section 2 of the EMP, which is the EMPR, the operational side. What are you doing on site in terms of environmental management? So the objective there is we looked at photographs to say, now that we have told you or we know what our requirements is in terms of environmental management from the EIA, now we say, let's see what we have done. So because the guys couldn't come to site, we went around, took photographs to share with the team where we are in terms of environmental compliance. Photo on the far left shows the rehabilitated dumps. Same here is another dump on the northeastern side. This is just a photo showing the layout of the pit. And then the photo on the bottom left shows the water treatment facility, whereby we try and manage the runoff water before it leaves the site. And then the photo at the bottom right shows the heaps of material that were removed. This is alien plant vegetation on one of the dams on the northeastern side as well. It's continuation of what we do in terms of environmental management on site. The dams, once they've been completed, we then got services of a hydroseeding company for 2 reasons, really, to make them green so that it does not become an eyesore to our neighbors, which are very, very interested in any activity that we're doing, including a stripping of overburden. And for the second reason, also to stabilize the dam so that we can not end up having issues of soil erosion or even the dam sliding or failing. So second picture in the middle there just shows the water cut filling up water from the bottom of the pit. If you look closer, you can see an excavator loading a mud pile that has been wetted. So to make sure that we reduce the amount of dust emitted during loading process. The photo on the right shows areas where rehabilitation has occurred, which essentially shows that the alien plants have been cut and also a herbicide applied to ensure that they do not resurface. The bottom picture shows a salvage yard, which is neat and well managed. Is also one of the findings in the previous audit. In terms of mitigation of dust, as stipulated in the EMP, that's when we looked at what is the EMP saying in terms of dust management on site. This is information taken as is from the EMP, looking at the different activities that would normally generate dust on site. For clearing of overburden and topsoil, it will say what needs to happen is we need to locate transport routes, stockpiles and waste dumps away from sensitive areas. This, I must say, it has been a very interesting journey as recent as now, where the issue that Anthony was referring to, it came up as an issue whereby the community members closer to the one boundary where we were stripping overburden, they complained that the reverse alarms were really causing them lose of sleep or peace, where we had to then stop removing or stripping overburden on Saturdays, and also to reduce the hours on weekdays to try and accommodate them without obviously losing the opportunity to do what we need to do. Drilling and blasting also, For example, it will say in the EMP drilling equipment to be fitted with dust collection apparatus, spray the blast area following the charge of blast holes, which is not always practical. In fact, we're not doing that. So that's some of the things that I said in the beginning, that if we need to change or amend, it will have to then be identified through a process that this is not applicable and we're not going to comply with it without, it has to be practical. The other option is to delay blasting in windy days, if possible. So that is also some of the things that we do. Transportation, with a mining operation, you need to move material from point A to point B. We also need to move material through the gate from stockpiles to weighbridge. So those are some of the things that needed to be looked at. Use the water cart to spray roads or stockpile areas. Loads can be watered or covered. We opted for covering the loads. I must also share with the industry that because of the active participation of the community for various reasons, they would also report instances or cases where they would see a truck going up the quarry road without the load being covered. So we're quite strict in enforcing the guys to cover their loads. This also talks about vegetation of residue stockpile. Earlier on, I mentioned that we are seeding the dams to make sure that it's stable and also that it's green. The other reason also is to make sure that during windy seasons, it doesn't get blown away and create unnecessary dust to our neighbors. On the other side, we do have dust fallout monitoring, whereby we have dust buckets in the perimeters of our operations, where we need to measure how much dust we're emitting or how much dust we're possibly emitting to our neighbors, the dust that falls outside our mining area. This is guided by SANS 1929 of 2011. During now this part of the presentation, when we're doing the audit, we will then pick up one set of results and share with the audience, whereby we're aiming not to have a dust bucket exceeding a value of 600 milligram per cubic day in a 30-day average for a residential bucket, and if it is an industrial, it should not exceed 1,200 milligram per day. I mean milligram per cube per day in a 30-day cycle. And then we'll then discuss the results as well as the comments from the specialists. Those will be the guys that would have done the monitoring for the company. In terms of dust suppression measures on site, first we shared with the audience what are the possible contributors for dust on site, drilling process. There's quite a bit of dust generated, loading and hauling, the crushing plant, as well as the loading of the mark pile with mine machines in the pit. Then we don't end there. We then say, fine, we know the different contributing factors in terms of dust. How do we then, in Pietermaritzburg, quarry manages those contributing factors? In the plant, we have special chutes, especially for your fine products, where it the photo on the left, whereby it will then direct the material into a funnel type to prevent the wind from blowing the dust away or the fine particles. We do have an intermediate tank, which we use to store water so that we don't find ourselves when there are water shortages running out of dust suppression water for the plants. And also, as you can see, the bottom left photo shows a nicely wet road, which also it has speed humps to try and reduce or minimize the speed of vehicles traveling on site. And also we have a system in place which checks the water use on site. One, we do have a daily checklist, which is filled by the plant supervisor to say, is the dust suppression adequate and working? That is in the plant. And also we have
Sorry, Ruben. Can you just go a little bit faster? They're just running out of a bit of time. Sorry, man.
We'll do so. Thanks, Letitia. These are some of the systems or measures that we have in place to show the effectiveness of the dust suppression system. Storm water management, we looked at the different flow patterns on site by what we have in our EMP, which tells us what we need to do in terms of storm water management. These are some of the measures on site, berms around the perimeter of the pit, diverting clean water away from the quarry, and also that attenuation point at the bottom, which cleans or try and arrest the sediments as it about to leave the quarry. So those are some of the activities that we do on site. Water use on site, we were awarded a general authorization, which basically looked at Section 21C, Section 21G, Section 21I for the following purposes, because the quarry falls within a 100-year flood plan, and then we also disposing water, wastewater via a septic tank. We also using wastewater for dust suppression. Those are the uses that we were awarded for. And then we have a sampling plan as well for dust, for water monitoring, where we sample the 3 areas in the pits, upstream and downstream, and then we will then discuss those results in the audit. As shown, waste management, also we have a waste manifest, which looks at the various waste on site, and also where the waste is taken to once we have accumulated the waste. This is just showing the bins. And then we do have a perimeter noise plan as well, where we need to know what sort of noise we get when we measure the noise around the quarry property, which is also important in terms of monitoring, especially given the fact that our neighbors are quite interested in what we do on the environmental side. And some of the gaps in the system, the one bucket was quite too far. So we, in fact, appointed a new service provider to try and assist with determining the best possible areas we can measure dust. We need to look at a formal stormwater management because our license of mining is expiring in 2026. We have started with specialist studies, which will include a formal stormwater management plan that will assist us in managing stormwater on site. Also, proof of maintenance of dust suppression system. This is a point raised by the DMR, whereby they want us to have proof. Instead of having proof that is working, we must have a maintenance plan that will then look at the the dust suppression system. And also we'll look at recommendations of the exceeded water parameters. The previous supplier or consultant, they were not including the any recommendations where we find ourselves exceeding the requirements. And we found that since the Department of Water and Sanitation is not really conducting any audits, I've been here for 4 years. I've never seen them. Not really excited about it, because sometimes it helps to be audited so that you can know what sort of areas you deal with. So we have identified a service provider to conduct the audit of our GA. That is basically it in terms of how we conducted our audits. Like I said, I think it was effective. because we've realized our objective in terms of just pushing the guys to say you need to go through your EMP, put together a presentation, and share it with the colleagues. Thank you very much, Letitia and the audience.
Thanks,
Ruben.
Nico. Thank you.
Thanks, Letitia. Thanks, Ruben. I think what you've done, Ruben, you've just confirmed what Anthony and Jan said earlier on, is that you've taken this thing as an operating guy and you've run with it, and it's much more of value than somebody coming and just auditing it and you actually don't know why you've done. I want to ask up front, and I'm pushing my luck, that when we elect a little committee, that you also serve on the committee as a practicing quarry manager, and that you could share this, because this is crucial stuff that you're doing. I didn't even know should be done. So maybe there's more that we. So thanks, Ruben. That was excellent. And Letitia, for this is what we need in industry, to share these things with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Again, it will be a privilege to serve on the committee. Thank you.
Right. Is there any comments or questions that somebody would like to make about Ruben's presentation, which I think was excellent? And yes, it seems that we need more of these. If not, then I think we need to start sort of, tying up. And I think what we need is how do we take it further, and what do we do on taking it further? I think I've suggested it, and Anthony suggested it, is that we set up a little committee, because I personally am so busy with a whole horde of other stuff, and that we will set up a meeting through our Teams or Zoom. You guys must just tell us, and we'll set it up most probably second week of Jan when everybody's back, and that little committee help us, and we start putting things in place. So unless somebody has got a problem with that, please shout. We need small guys on. We need practicing guys on, like Ruben. I need Jeremy on. There's so many people, and it doesn't have to be a specific number. If it's 5 or 10 people, let's start off and we get as much as we can into the package. And because I think what Ruben has done here, he's done a lot of those 11 blocks that Anthony spoke about. So it's not so difficult. I thought we weren't going to do it. So, Anthony, I'm going to ask you to chair this committee for me, if you don't mind. And I will set it up, and I'll open up, and then I'll shut up. Because as Jeremy always says, I talk too much. But so is that fine with you, Anthony?
Yeah, that's good, Nico. I'll do that. Thank you.
Right. Now we need names. Can we, and Anneke, please also write down names on the other side, because I might slip up. To start off with, I need names. Vernon, you?
Yeah, so Nico, I want to be part of that committee, so you put my name up.
Vernon, Ruben, Letitia?
Yes, I would just like to add one of my environmental specialists as well, from a legal perspective.
What's that
It
name?
will be Nsako or Tali. They will alternate between the two who can make it for the different meetings.
Okay, you will let us have the right spelling at some stage.
Yes.
I'll just chip in here, Letitia. We're going to need continuity here, so I think nominate one. Otherwise, they're going to miss out on whatever's discussed.
Yeah, one will definitely attend most, but where Tali can't make it, Nsako will definitely sit in.
Okay, Mark Marie? Are you joining?
Yes, Nico, I would like to be part of this.
And I'm nominating Jeremy. Is that fine, Jeremy?
Yes, that's fine, Nico. I'll sit in for independence. I'll get some info from them. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Hi, Nico, can we have Wendy Pienaar from Lafarge as well?
Okay.
Nico, and if possible, I would like to request if I can speak to the guys from Eco Partners that Carmony joins us in this meeting as well.
Okay.
From a consultant point of view.
Okay, well, let us have the name of the person. And then I see Sunette, your hands up. You want to join?
Yes, please, Nico.
Okay. Right. Wie staan nog? Who else? Letitia, if you take your hand down, and okay, they're all gone down. Now, we've got in the region of, help me if I'm wrong, we've got Martmarie, who's small independent, Jeremy, who's quite a big independent, and so forth. So is there any, I don't see Raubeck's, yeah, is there anybody from Raubeck's? I've got Lafarge, I've got Afrimat, I've got Afrisam. I also don't have anybody from PPC. Is there anybody on the committee that would like to be part of this? Guys, I'm not, we're not pushing if it's 7, 8, 9, 10 people. We just want to get the work done, and we won't take too much of your time. You will be part of the dates and the time and so forth. So there's a JP. Who's JP? Oh, you're on. There you're on. Gaan jy deelneem? Are you in?
Yes, Nico, that's fine. I'll be joining.
Okay. We need. Is there any? There isn't anybody from PPC. Is there anybody from other independent operation that would like to sit in? Because I think you can only learn quite a lot. Please, guys, don't be shy. Put your hand up, and we'll put you on. We're not gonna do anything else. I must just say that I'm very proud of you guys. We had 43 people that have clicked in. Just tell me, is there anybody in your room that's sitting in there that we could add to the 43 people? How many people have you got there with you in the boardroom? Anthony, you must probably got some of your guys there.
No, I'm alone on this one, Nico.
Johan, you? Nobody.
No, I'm alone, Nico.
Okay. Well, I thought I was going to hit the jackpot. Anyway, 43 people have been in. I've also got some. Hello? Hello, Johan?
It's Monday. It's Monday.
Yeah, not a good day. But 43 people. We've never had so many people in one committee live session as what we have today. So what this program, Anneke will just confirm, it's Monday now. We should by Wednesday have the link available and this thing on the YouTube. Anneke is also working on an alternative way where we can get it. So that's fantastic. I see our editor, our guy who writes, Raymond, is in, and I even see we've got some high-powered lawyers in here. So I'm very chuffed that we're getting together on this one. If there's anybody who would like to say something else, then I'm going to end off. And what we'll do is we'll set up a date, most probably the second week of Jan, because I think the 4th is a Monday, and some of us are coming back on the Monday. But the week after that, Anneke will set up a meeting date for these names. And if anybody else wants to join, I mean, just send us a mail. We'll include you in that session. And then Anthony is going to drive it for us. We'll do a little agenda. Any comments, Anthony? Letitia?
I think just the big question. Sorry, Anthony. Just a big question. So next year, there's not going to be audits yet. It's going to be the development.
Yes. What we're planning to do is that we do the development. You're absolutely right, and Anthony must help here. But by, let's say, June, July, we can start dry run audits where people submit, and that's what the little committee, maybe the people submit their documents to 1 or 2 people. We need to find that out if it's confidential or not. And we have a little committee and says, okay, fine, this is right and this is wrong. I'm a bit nervous of getting outside people involved and they don't understand the industry, and we don't want that again. So we'll do that, but yeah, most probably by the middle of next year we can start. The other thing that's been proposed, which we said, is that we won't do it every year. We do it every second year, so that we don't overdo it like we used to do. And I think that was the problem. We ran wild and just did audits for the sake of audits. But let's do it over 24 months. And we start off with you people will know who's the, I must watch my language, who's the worst quarries or the poor quarries on the environmental side, and we start with them, and the nice places we do last, something to that effect, because we need to help the guys that are in trouble. Anthony?
Yeah, Nico, I think just on the audit side, we're going to look at the virtual audit firstly. I think that was the starting point. It's open for discussion, and then we'll move on to the physical side. So I see Felix has got his hand up there. Felix.
Yes.
Hi,
Felix,
Nico. Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Nico, just as a form of industry trying to, I mean, when we do the audits, we audited against an approved EMP.
Yes.
But you find that in doing compliance audit, as well as industry-related audits, for instance, like your about-face audits, in some of the regions, we're still sitting with EMPRs that have been submitted as far back as 2011.
Sure.
We've even sent in updated EMPRs to comply with the latest legislation, and we're still sitting with unapproved EMPRs, you know, which is kind of a bit of a problem if you are going to be audited, but you're audited against, you know, an approved EMPR. It's not a lack of trying. You do engage with the regulatory authorities, but I mean, Anthony, you're one of the people affected in your region.
Felix, thanks for that. What I suggest is what we do is when we do the first meeting, we ask all our members to have let us have information when they applied and where and so forth and so forth. And then under ASPASA's name, I write a letter to the DG or even to the minister saying that these things are not happening. Why not? I think that's what we need to do, put pressure on and say, guys, you must make a decision. Is that all right, or is that pushing it a bit far?
I think it's pushing it a little bit far, Nico, at this stage. I think it's critical that our relationship still lies in the regions. If we do engage, you know, as an industry with the various regions where there might be, well, it might be for valid reasons of backlogs and things like that. But obviously one needs to understand as to where the problem could be and how we can work with the regulatory authority such that we are compliant on the basis of whatever documentation we get audited against. It's very important for us to know as an industry where we're sitting with various submissions that we've made. But I think we can still lobby that in the regions than escalating it at this stage.
Okay. No, I think that's why I asked. What I'm going...
Yeah.
Sorry, Anthony.
Yeah, I just want to, I actually agree with Felix there. I don't think we should wake up too many sleeping dogs. Let's get our house in order. As long as our things are right, you know, maybe Felix, just a proposal for this. If you've, you know, for example, we've submitted a new EMP, then we audit against that one. It's, you know, it's not going to change much from the approved one. You know, we will just have to have a look at how we handle that one. But to go to DG now is we're going to get it could have a backlash.
Okay. Just to tie in with what Felix is saying and you, Anthony, I'm planning, we're having the first one on the 7th of December with the KZN regional, but I'm planning to have virtual meetings with all the regions, not only on health and safety, but also on environmental. So maybe when we hold those, we just put an agenda item on saying that there are some of these that are outstanding. We've actually been asked to do these regional meetings by the top people in the DMRE. Our Chief Inspector, or David Msizu, has said, first talk to the regions. If they don't help you and they don't come forward, you then come back to me. Then they will know you've come back to me. But I think that's, we actually had the ministers to advise us in the meeting one day. So with this COVID thing, everything fell off and fell out. But I think that's what we need to do in 2021. And I will set that up over December when I've got nothing else to do and try and see if we can get those meetings. Thanks for that input. Any other input? I see the people are starting to click off, so I'm nervous they're going to lunch. Any other comments? Right. So thanks for the committee. Once the committee's had a meeting and they've got more focus, we'll call a general meeting again like we've had today. But we don't want to just waste your time because you guys are all busy. So we'll then have one most probably end of February, beginning of March. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank Jan Heiser. Thanks Anthony. Thanks Ruben. Thanks Letitia. Thanks to everybody that gave input here. It's always very difficult to see if you aren't all sleeping, or but anyway, I don't think so. You would click out. Thank you very, very much. And if we don't see you again, have a good and blessed resting period over December. And yeah, we're all back in the new year, and we'll carry on with our task. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Nico. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Cheers, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Guys.